It's over opinionated. It's over opinionated with Josh Clark.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Over Opinionated. And last week's episode, we had Daryl McLean of the Daryl McLean Show come on for a conversation. It went really well. I loved the episode. I do apologize for the audio mishaps, and I will be working on that. I'm still growing and learning as a podcaster. If any of you would like to help the podcast grow, you can go over to Patreon and go to patreon.com/overopinionated. The O and over is capitalized. Overopinionated 679. That'll be patreon.com/overopinionated 679. That's just one way to help the podcast. Another way you can help the podcast is pray, and another way you can help the podcast is also word of mouth. Share it, listen to it. Please, thank you very much, and I appreciate that more than your dollar. And listen, if you don't have a lot of money, don't have a dollar to give, I'm okay with that. I understand. But if you just want to give $1 a month too, that'll help the podcast grow. And thank you to Anita Sexton of Whitfield for helping me with the podcast. I will have Anita on in a new episode eventually talking about diabetes awareness, which is a very important topic. And I've had a lot of family struggle with diabetes over the years. And there's a lot to know, and a lot that is on surface value that people think they know that is just not the case. With that being said, let's start the new episode. We're going to have a 2024 election talk. It is crazy to me that we are having a 2024 election talk. It seems like just yesterday was November 2020, and a lot has happened since then. And with almost 3 years of Joe Biden's presidency, or 2.5, we now see more of the results of Joe Biden being president. And America will now have the choice to go another direction or course correct and select a new candidate. I want to first talk about the Biden has officially announced his presidency. He did it over a video that he will be running for president of the United States in 2024. He is currently 80 years old and currently the president. And a lot of Americans think that 80 is a little too old to be president. I think it's on a spectrum. I don't think we should judge our political candidates necessarily by the age. But I do believe that once you get to 80 years old, that it is harder on you physically and mentally. And listen, there are smart 80-year-olds. I believe my grandfather is a very smart 80-year-old. He's a full-time pastor of a church. He's very active. He goes out and he fishes and he has a garden and he helps take care of my grandmother. He's a good man. And he has a very good mental capacity. With that being said, is he presidential material health-wise? I don't know. Honestly, I think if someone like my grandfather was president at 81 or 82, he would be fine. Joe Biden, on the other hand, has a very hard time communicating with the American public what he's trying to accomplish and what he's doing. And I think it's a mental stability. I think Joe Biden would be fine if he went off to Delaware, enjoyed his grandkids and his children, and maybe made a comment or an interview every once in a while. but didn't have the stress and responsibility of President of the United States or just anybody in public office. I think that would be the best for his health. And I'm not just saying that as a Republican that wants him out of there. I'm saying that as an American, and I'm saying that as a Christian that I think it'd probably be better for his health. With that being said, Joe is not going out with a fight, and he is going to give us Republicans and a fight for the presidency, and us as Americans a choice. Should we keep going the direction with Joe Biden, or should we, what I would believe is a course correction, and go with a better candidate? This is not unnoticed among Democrats. I want to say this. He has right now two legitimate challengers. One in particular would be John Kennedy Jr., son of the late Senator uh, Robert F. Kennedy. Not, I apologize, I said John Kennedy. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running for president, and you might just say, well, that's laughable. He'll never win. He's a goon. He doesn't have a chance. I don't think he's going to win, but don't count him out. Me and Daryl McLean, we were talking, and he actually believes that the way I Kennedy has a chance. I I don't really see it, but I do think even though he doesn't have, even though he might not have a realistic chance, he does show that Democrats are also frustrated with Joe Biden, and that he's not polling at 1%. I want to read you a poll. This is a poll from this is Real Clear Politics website, the Real Clear Politics average, which they average out these polls. Biden is at 66%, is the latest poll. Okay, he's the president of the United States, obviously. Kennedy is at 20%, and Marianne Williamson is at 8.5. Maybe she'd be lower if there's more Democrats. But so that is 28.5% of of Democrats being polled that are not happy with Joe Biden for whatever reason. Is it the Kennedy name, or is it just the opposition within the party? Maybe a little bit of both. But my friend Daryl McLean, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but the way it sounded like that a lot of African Americans might really like Robert Kennedy because of his anti-vaccination stance, because of his positioning on it being your choice to get vaccinated. He's known for being anti-vaccination when it comes to children. He's a lawyer. He made the comment in his speech, this is what happens when you silence a man for 18 years. So this is a man with a chip on his shoulder. His dad also, ran for president when a sitting president was president. LBJ was president, and Robert Kennedy ran against him, and LBJ dropped out. Some speculate it was because health. Some speculate because he didn't think he could beat the young, popular Ron F. Kennedy. Whatever it is, unfortunately, that campaign was cut short by a gunman, and it is very sad for all of America and the Kennedys. With that being said, we'll see what happens. I'm sure his dad running against LBJ and against the sitting president has definitely been on his mind before. Marianne Williamson also ran in the 2020 election. She endorsed Joe Biden after he won the nomination. With that being said, I guess she wants to go back in. I don't have a big stock on her, but she's polling at 8.5%. That's not 1%. It's not big, but it's not 1%. But there's only three official Democrats that have filed to run for the nominee. I think Joe Biden wins it. Okay, I think Kennedy. I think Kennedy has the biggest shot, but you could make the case that he should be able to bait Biden at 20%. I don't know what the threshold is, but 20% is pretty big. but I think Biden takes uh, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. down. But I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. hurts Biden. Um, and I think that could help Republicans. And I don't think that's why Robert Kennedy is running. I really think Robert Kennedy believes he can win. But when you ever have a weakened, whenever you have a weakened sitting presidential candidate, and someone that comes along in the party and challenges them, it normally doesn't end well. The same thing happened to Jimmy Carter when another Kennedy um, ran against him, and he squashed the other Kennedy, but the, he got he also got beat very bad versus Ronald Reagan in the 1980 election. Um, and there was a new poll from ABC that actually has Donald Trump right now, if he was the nominee, beating Joe Biden by a little bit, percentage wise. And I just want to read you some of these numbers from an article from ABC. Biden's approval rating is numerically the lowest on record for any first-time president a year and a half from the presidential election in polling dating to Harry Truman. Similar was Gerald Ford at 40% approval in May 1975. Jimmy Carter at 37% in May 1979. Both of those candidates went on to lose. Gerald Ford didn't have a chance. It wasn't really his fault, but he came in and was playing janitor to the big mess that Richard Nixon left with the Watergate scandal. Jimmy Carter was had an awful time with the Iran hostage crisis and inflation. But let's not forget, Joe Biden completely botched the Afghanistan pullout. He got, uh, well, maybe it's unfair to say he got Americans killed, but as a result of his policies, we had quite a bit of Americans die in that pullout. Our soldiers overseas. A horrific footage. I remember Afghani women handing their babies over to U.S. soldiers because they knew that they had a better chance in America or wherever than a Taliban controlled Afghanistan. And they knew that the Taliban was going to roll up. Taliban ended up rolling up, taking over in 5 minutes as soon as we left. It was a botch. We can argue if we should have been in Afghanistan or not. But once you're there, you don't pull out like that. We pulled out awfully. And Joe Biden is not getting enough criticism for that. We've let him off the hook. We've let him off the hook for that. I believe he's handled the economy awful with prices and whatnot. And you can only blame Russia so long for so much of this. China has been more aggressive. We are seeing weak. About a year into his presidency, there was a lot of Palestinian and Israeli conflict. I know that happens quite a bit, but but we also had the Abraham Accords that made Israel a lot stronger in the region, partnering up with Arabic countries. So, I mean, I could go on and on and on about Joe Biden's failures as presidency because I believe he has a ton of failures as president. With that being said, let's talk about the Republican nomination for president, and we got two heavyweights coming in. We have Donald Trump, the former president of the United States. We have an undeclared candidate that everyone is suspecting will announce, who is very like Trump in his mannerisms, but he is also a lot more articulate in how to handle himself. And I make no secret about it. I'm Team Ron DeSantis all the way. I think he's all the good of Trump and not the bad of Trump. And I believe he would mop the floor versus Joe Biden in the general election right now. If it was held today, I think he would mop the floor. You know, the media try to paint him as an evil bigot, and when it comes to transgenderism, when it comes to all these things. With that being said, I think a lot of Americans, they want to accept people, they want to love people, but and at least in my corner of the United States, okay, so that's a lot different than California and New York. But I know a lot of parents that are upset about these transgenders in bathrooms, in sporting competitions. It's not fair for a man to compete on women's competitions and win. This Leah Thomas, where she won the NCAA national championship in swimming, how is that fair? She is biologically a man. She, I'm using the word she in quotation marks, was born with male genitalia and has a different biology than women. I don't care how you feel on the inside. If you're born a man, you will die a man. They can dig up your bones 1,000 years from now, or 200 years from now, which I went backwards, or 2 million years from now, and say, yeah, this was a man. This was a woman. They can tell. This is science. I mean, you can't claim to be the party of science and the party of transgenderism. It's not the same thing. It is incompatible. That was a side rant. Forgive me. But and I'm not saying this out of hate. I'm really saying it out of love. We need to set these people down. We need to say, listen, you're going through a problem. We're going to talk this out. We're going to give you the therapy you need. We're not going to mutilate your body. They call these things uh, gender affirming healthcare. You're not affirming their gender. Their true gender is what they were born as. Their true sex is what they were born as. And don't give me the whole crap of sex and gender is not the same thing. You know what I'm talking about. Don't be so smart that you're stupid. That's when people, blue collar people, roll their eyes and they pull the lever Republican, and people are like, "Why are you doing that? You're working class. You should vote Democrat." Well, you know what? The Democratic Party turned their back on the working class a long time ago, and they could care less about hardworking Americans. They might say it, they might project that, but their demographic, they have targeted a different demographic to win elections, from the white working class to the minority um, coalition that they believe will win every election. But the problem is inside that um, inside of that minority group, they're also individuals, because even though in this minority coalition that they believe will win all their elections, you have individuals. They Hispanics, a lot of these hardworking Hispanic people from Mexico, from Cuba, a lot of them are very religious. A lot of them are Catholic, and you're going to push a lot of this transgender stuff and this abortion stuff down on this and say just because we're the party of minorities, which I don't agree with. I think the Republican Party is very diverse, as well as the Democratic Party. We both are. But they try to paint us as the racist party. But when that cracks, when people know it's not true, that it's a bunch of bullcrap being fed to them so they get scared and they pull the lever for Democrats. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to divide us. One day, Democrats will realize that the minority coalition is built up of individuals. A lot of those individuals come from religious backgrounds that are Catholic, um, that are Christian in general, that are not friendly to the transgenderism and to abortion. And when you're the party of abortion, of pro-abortion. You can say that's not pro-abortion, it's pro-choice. Well, at the end of the day, there's a dead baby, so I'm going to call it pro-abortion. You can call it whatever you want. When you're the party of that, that does not match up with Catholic values, which many Hispanics are, not all, and many Christians are, not all. That does not match up. And Florida Republicans are winning the Hispanic vote. DeSantis won it. Trump won it. Now there are different. Those are different type of Hispanics than the Mexican Hispanics, but they still won it. And I went off on one side rant. I'm sorry. Um, my thing is, I believe we're all made in God's image, no matter what skin color you have. But I don't like people just labeling us and grouping us all together and saying, because you have this skin color, you have to believe this way, or because you make this income, you have to believe this way, or because you're this old, you have to believe this way. We're individuals. We are individuals, and we can think individually. That doesn't mean that we're not influenced by other. That being said, Trump is winning the Real Clear Politics poll by 29%. He's at 52, and Governor DeSantis is at 23, and then they are scattered. If you add all the scatters, Trump is still winning, but it's closer. And this is my message to Republicans and Trump Republicans too. Listen, I love how much enthusiasm you bring to it. I love that you want to hold the establishment accountable. I do too. And I know that Trump speaks in a way which you like. He speaks in a way which I like, which is blunt. That doesn't mean everything he says is always productive for winning an election. I am not at all opposed to the ideas that Trump ran on. I support the vast majority of them. And I believe he did a very good job as president, as if being an executive member of the presidency. Not an executive member, at the executive branch. I thought he did a very good job with foreign policy for the most part. I thought he did a decent job, maybe a couple hiccups. I thought he did a good job with socially where he wanted to lead the country for the most part. And I thought he did a good job as president, and I thought he did a great job with the economy and until COVID hit, and you can't blame Trump for COVID. You can say that he didn't have us as well prepared, but this would have happened under any other presidency. This would have happened under a George Bush. This would have happened under a Barack Obama or Joe Biden. And I know Joe Biden dealt with COVID too, but not the beginning of it. And if it wasn't for COVID, I really think Trump is still president. With all that being said, Trump puts his foot in his mouth. You might say, I love when he says that. I love, okay, but you're already bought into Trump. You're going to vote for Trump hell or high water. You would call, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm saying this is a good thing. You would crawl through glass, going through melting lava to vote for Trump. And I'm being not literal, but you're going to, when it comes November, you're going to pull that lever for Donald Trump. Come hell or high water, you're not going to let anyone stop you. I, I wish, now this is not every Republican, but I wish that all Republicans would take that same attitude for every election and for every Republican candidate that wins the nomination. Because even if you lose the nomination, if you're a good Republican will swallow their pride if their candidate loses the nomination, and they will go vote for the candidate that wins the nomination. Because there will be a time when your candidate does win the nomination, and there might be someone in the establishment or people in the establishment or that are more moderate that say, well, I'm not going to vote for this person. Yeah. If you believe in Republican values and you believe that the Republican Party is the best way to govern the United States, to govern your towns, to govern your states, then you will go pull the lever for that Republican. There are some very rare exceptions where I would say don't go vote for that Republican, but it is so rare that it's almost inconceivable. Like I remember that there was an awful person in Illinois that was nominated for Congress. And I don't want to say his name or a lot of his belief systems, but they are contradictory to Republican belief systems. And he was running against a pro life Democrat in that instance. And he definitely went against a lot of party values. In that one rare instance, I would have not voted, but it's super rare. It's like a 1 in a million chance. And you don't have to agree with every issue, but please, if your candidate loses, no matter who they are, go vote for them. Because wouldn't you rather have them in charge than have a Democrat in charge? You take a candidate like Glenn Youngkin. I like Glenn, but a lot of people think that Glenn's not conservative enough. So are you going to say because Glenn's quote unquote not conservative enough that you're going to go not vote and let Terry McAuliffe become governor again? You also got to remember you're not just putting in good principles, you're stopping bad principles from happening. And the Democrats are full of bad principles. So, yeah, is there some Republicans I don't really like? Yeah, there is. I'm not a big fan of Larry Hogan, the former governor of Maryland. But if he was my nominee, I'm going to go vote for him because he's better than the Democrat. I'm not a big fan of Susan Collins or Senator Lewinsky, and but I'm going to go vote for them. You know why? Because they're not going to introduce a bunch of crazy. We'd use the term woke and social justice warrior type of nonsense. They're also probably not going to raise your taxes to high heaven. So please, 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 if your person loses, vote for the other Republican. So if Trump wins the nomination, I've said this multiple times, whoever wins the nomination has got my vote. That's not because I'm blindly voting Republican. Many people might say that. But my ideology is that the Republican Party, through their conservative principles, are better to govern than the Democratic Party or anybody else out there. So you have to be very bad not to get my vote if you're a Republican, because I think even though you might be a bad individual or not be the most articulate candidate in the race, I think your principles are better. I'm voting for principle, party principle, and I'm voting for. I'm also voting for what your party believes too. Not just you. You come as a package. If you decide to run as a Democrat or to run as a Republican, you're deciding to run on the beliefs of those parties or the majority of the beliefs in those parties. Because I do have some disagreements with some Republican beliefs, but it's not a lot. And if I line up 80% with the Republican Party, I'm going to vote with 80% of my values. And I'm not going to vote with the party that has 20% of my values and 80% of my disagreements, or at least not, if not disagreements, things that I don't value. But Trump people, please take this to heart. I understand you. I understand where you're coming from. I love you. I'm glad you're part of the party. But please realize when it comes to this election, we have to ask ourselves one question: who can beat Joe Biden? And I know a lot of you will talk about the stolen election. Let's leave that in the past. And a lot of you, I understand you're mad about that, and we can have a different conversation. But if everything is fair, who do you think has the best opportunity to defeat Joe Biden? A candidate like Ron DeSantis, who is all the good of Trump and but doesn't say stuff like this country is an asshole and doesn't have tons of allegations against him. I'm not just talking about BS allegations. Trump is on charge right now, and I think it's a bad charge. I think it's a BS charge um, for hush money and for campaign finance in New York. That's not going to help him outside of the nomination. It won't. I don't think a moderate or an independent voter is going to get up and be like, I have to go vote. It's pouring down rain, but I have to go vote for Trump because he has been injustice. They're not going to care about that billionaire that's been a little bit injustice. I mean, I do think it's an injustice. I do think it's a political witch hunt, but that's not going to happen. Or will they go vote? Will they see how bad the economy is? Will they see how much money they're paying at the gas pump? Will they see all of these things and look to a strong leader who doesn't put his foot in his mouth, who doesn't lose many fights like Ron DeSantis? Um, I think that is something we need to consider as Republicans. Um, Obviously, I'm biased. I'm not saying Ron is the only guy that can beat Joe Biden. I think there are a lot of them, a lot of Republicans that can beat Joe Biden. I think Trump has a shot at beating Joe Biden still, but he comes with a lot of baggage, and he comes with a lot of bad tweets, a lot of bad misstatements. Sometimes the media corrupt them. Sometimes they're just bad statements that Trump should have not said, and they're going to have a lot of negative material to spread against us. And we want to make it easy to vote for a Republican candidate and hard to vote for Joe Biden. And Trump makes it hard to vote for Joe Biden because he can show how bad he is. But he also makes it very hard to vote for him. We need a candidate that can do both. That's how you win in politics. You don't want you make it hard to vote for you make it hard to vote for the candidate on the other side and easy to vote for yourself. That is just politics in a very simple form. But Trump is winning, and I don't think it is impossible to beat Trump. We got a long way to go, and I'm saying this. I believe that a primary is like a practice. In football or basketball, pick your sport. You have you're practicing at the very beginning of the year because you want to find who the best player is so you can start them. That doesn't mean you hate the other players that don't start, okay? But you want your best players on the field or on the court. Um, that's what a primary means to me. I'm looking for my best player as a coach to put on the field to start. That doesn't mean I hate Timmy that was good, but just wasn't our best. Um, and maybe that sounds harsh, but politics can be harsh, and I'm saying it as nice as way we can. Because right now I'm looking at a 538 poll. They take all these polls together and they average them out. Joe Biden is at 52.5% disapproval of May 8th, 2023. 52%, 52.5% of Americans believe Joe Biden sucks. And they're right. As president, he does. Therefore, we need a candidate that can have a better percentage than that and a better stake. Um, I want to read you something from this. I want to read you something from this ABC article. This is from the ABC article I read from you earlier about the polls. Okay, among adults ages 65 and older, so we're talking senior citizens, people that can be on Social Security, 62% of them see Biden is too old to be president, um, and 40% say Trump is too old to be president. Like I've already talked about the age and my opinion on that. That is kind of crazy to me. Um, just because Biden is not that much older than Trump. He's only 4 years older than Trump, and that's a huge percentage. That's 22% of people over the age of 65 think Biden's way too old, versus Trump. Uh, People ages 18 to 29, I'm in that age demographic. 75% of young voters, 18 to 29, 75% of people see Biden as too old versus 53% for Trump. And that's a little bit more. But guys, that shows the mental capacity and the physical capacity. People think Trump is way more mentally fit and way more physically fit to be president. And listen, if Trump wins, I'm going to be his biggest spokesperson. But what if we throw a 50-year-old politician in there? We might think 50's old, but it might be to play professional sports, but it's not in politics. And listen, I'm not an ageist, okay? But this is what the American people are thinking, and it's not just that he's too old; it's that he's mentally declining, and everyone can see it. Everyone can see it. It's not that he stutters. It's not that he misspeaks. It's he forgets what he speaks about. I stutter. I misspeak, and sometimes I might go off on a rant, but I know what I'm talking about. Um, I'm also a lot younger than the president. So I think it's eventually going to be Ron versus Don, and I'll do an episode titled Ron versus Don, and why I think Ron deserves to be our presidential nominee before Trump. That doesn't mean I don't like Trump. That doesn't mean that I hate Trump's policies. I just think it'd be better if we went in a different direction. Also, I'm going to read off a couple more. Larry Elder is running for the nomination. He hosted a a show called the Larry Elder Show. He also ran for governor in California, and he got beat pretty bad in the 2021 recall election versus Gavin Newsom. South Carolina, former South Carolina governor. She's 51 years old. Nikki Haley, also, she was the ambassador to the United Nations and served as a state representative to South Carolina House. She's only 51. Um, Nikki Haley is a mixed bag. I think Nikki Haley would probably be a good president. Um, she's only 51. She's fairly young. She has a decent background for the most part. She was not a bad UN ambassador. She's really stuck up for Israel when confronting the United Nations, when a lot of the United Nations condemns Israel, and I really appreciate that. But I've got a grind with her. I've got a little pick about her, and that is her flip flop on the Confederate battle flag. Regardless of your opinion of the Confederate battle flag, she totally changed hers, and I don't think it was out of a epiphany or a new understanding or meditation and belief and studying, and it was because of political pressure at the time. There was a horrible church shooting in South Carolina where an evil racist person murdered a lot of black good Christian people, and one of the flags, his flag that he used was a Confederate battle flag that a lot of people can misuse. I would make the argument of misusing the Confederate battle flag for a statement of hate. Also, I think that's not the only flag that's been misused in history. I also would make the argument that the American flag's been misused in history by hateful people too. That doesn't mean we throw away the flag. I understand it's controversial, But my problem with her is she totally flip flopped to be on the better, really for political pressure. And I want to play you a couple of clips of that. Here is Nikki Haley speaking about the Confederate battle flag before the incident.
Groups that come in and say they have issues with the Confederate flag, I will work to talk to them about it. I will work to talk to them about the heritage and how this is not something that is racist. This is something that is a tradition that people feel proud of.
As you heard Nikki Haley say, this is something that is not racist. This is something people are proud of. It's part of their heritage. That's what she said. But after she got their votes and after political pressure was too much on her, and listen, it was a horrible event. But after those things, she caved to political pressure. She didn't care what the conservative and Confederate wing. And yeah, there are still Confederates out there, and I'm tired of people just passing them off as all racist. You go to the Deep South, this is something that is very near and dear to people's hearts, and it is not all about racism. And I'm just tired of this game. I'm not denying that there hasn't been racism in the past, and there's not racism now, but to blame the flag out of political pressure when you have defended it before, that's not a change of heart that happened overnight. I think it's obviously bowing to political pressure. Regardless of your feelings about the Confederate flag, that will have an impact on her in the primary. And I don't want to vote for her because of that. I don't. If I have to vote for her, if she's the nominee, I'll go vote for her because I think she would be a decent president. But this is going to hurt her. It's going to hurt her very much. And to say it shouldn't is just very unwise. And here's a clip of her speaking about the Confederate flag after the awful incident, an awful tragedy.
15 years ago, after much contentious debate, South Carolina came together in a bipartisan way to move the flag from atop the Capitol dome. Today, we are here in a moment of unity in our state, without ill will, to say it's time to move the flag from the Capitol grounds. 150 years after the end of the Civil War, the time has come. There will be some in our state who see this as a sad moment. I respect that. But know this, for good and for bad, whether it is on the State House grounds or in a museum, the flag will always be a part of the soil of South Carolina. But this is a moment in which we could say that that flag, while an integral part of our past, does not represent the future of our great state. We know that bringing
So it doesn't represent the future of the great state. That flag is subjective, but all she is saying here, all those voters that voted for me when I promised to defend the heritage of the Confederate flag, even though I don't subscribe to that, or even though I don't have ancestry that defended that flag, I'm still going to defend it. All she's saying is because of political pressure now, she uses the term "now is the time," which is liberal language. This is liberal language we hear all the time. Oh, it's 2023. Why can't we have gay marriage? Oh, it's 2023. Why can't you be with the transgender movement? It's 2023. Why can't we have this or that? And why are we still fighting about abortion? I don't care what year it is. I care what's right and what's wrong. And we can have that debate, but don't use the liberal language, please. If you're going to say something, say, I don't believe we should fly that flag because of racial connotations, and I don't think it's the right thing to do. Be strong about it. Don't use liberal language. But she's trying to split the baby. She's trying to keep the pro-Confederate crowd happy enough in a hard situation that they would still like her. Also, try to satisfy the anti-Confederate battle flag um, coalition. And that's what is bothering me so much about her. She's fickle. In her announcement video, she made a comment about it hurts harder when you kick them with heels. Here's that.
With boys. And when you kick back, it hurts them more if you're wearing heels.
So we're going to make a pro-feminist statement. It hurts when you kick them with heels, and she brings up being a woman constantly. I don't care that you're a woman. Are you the best individual for the job? I don't care about this identity politics. I don't care about all of this. Women, men, white, black. Can you do the job? That's the America I want to live in. The best person for the best job. And I just get so sick and tired of it. This is what Democrats do. Republicans don't need to copy and paste them. We need to run on the idea that the best person gets the best job. It doesn't matter your skin color, your race, your religion, or your gender or sex. I just don't like Nikki Haley for those reasons. I think she would be a decent president. She'd be better than what we have now. But I'm not going to go stump for her in the primary after what she's done. You can disagree with that. That's my opinion. You can leave it or take it. She's only at like 2%, maybe 3% in the primary. And if it was her versus Trump, Trump would stomp her. And that's all there is to it. Nikki Haley is a joke to me when it comes to 2024. If she wants to run for senator when Lindsey Graham retires or something, maybe we can have a different conversation. But she is not a president right now. Let's talk about another presidential candidate, Asa Hutchinson, the former governor of Arkansas. He was also a United States representative from 1997 to 2001, and the administrator of the drug enforcement from 2001 to 2003. I'm not a fan. He's 72 years old. He's still a little older. We've talked about age before, but he's definitely not the youngest in his age. My big beef with him is he really screwed the pooch when it came to protecting children and when it came to gender quote-unquote affirming surgery. He vetoed a bill in the heavy Republican legislature of Arkansas banning gender surgery, reassignment surgery for people under 18 years old. That's weak. I'm sure it was because of his convictions, but it's weak to me, and it shows that he is not presidential material on the Republican side of the aisle. If he was a Democrat, it'd be different. But if you're not willing to stand up for children when it comes to quote-unquote gender reassignment surgery, first of all, that's such a dumb statement, such a dumb way to state it. What they're doing is removing body parts from children, and that is not healthy, and that can't be healthy for your mental status, for your mental health. They might say it's for mental health and to help the children, but you're going to destroy their mental health, because eventually in their heart of hearts and they're going to know that they are the sex, they are the gender that they were born to, and you've destroyed their body. Now, there's still a way out of that. You might not get all your parts back, but you can have healing through Jesus. And the left can roll their eyes and pout their teeth, because I know a lot of them hate Jesus. But you can have healing in Jesus. That doesn't mean there's still not consequences, but him as governor should have the moral fortitude to say, this is wrong. I'll sign this bill into law. But he vetoed it, and here's his explanation of why he did veto it.
I was told this week that the nation is looking at Arkansas because I have on my desk another bill passed by the General Assembly that is a product of the cultural war in America. I don't shy away from the battle when it is necessary and defensible, but the most recent action of the General Assembly, while well-intended, is off course, and I must veto House Bill 1570. If House Bill 1570 becomes law, then we are creating new standards of legislative interference with physicians and parents as they deal with some of the most complex and sensitive matters involving young people. It is undisputed that the population of minors who struggle with gender incongruity or gender dysphoria is an extreme minority. But while they are a minority, they deserve the guiding hand of their parents and of the healthcare professionals that their family has chosen. House Bill 1570 would put the state as the definitive oracle of medical care, overriding parents, patients, and healthcare experts. While in some instances the state must act to protect life, the state should not presume to jump into the middle of every medical, human, and ethical issue. This would be and is a vast government overreach. Finally, I understand that the General Assembly will likely override this veto. House Bill 1570 had overwhelming support when it passed the first time, and as you know, it takes a simple majority to override the governor's veto in Arkansas. I'm hopeful, though, that my action will cause conservative Republican legislators to think through the issue again and hopefully come up with a more restrained approach that allows a thoughtful study of the science and ethics surrounding the issue before acting.
Okay, so that is his explanation. He talks about gender dysphoria being a minority, and it's probably a growing minority, but he's also talking about letting doctors and parents have this say. So what he means by that is, and when he talks about it is the job of the government to protect life, but we don't want to be in this decision. What he's saying is the way you address gender dysphoria is carving a kid up like a turkey and just destroying their body and having no government to protect these children. They might think that they need to do this, but okay, if you have to wait till you're 18 to vote and 18 to do a lot of things and 21 to do a lot of things, all we're asking is, before you let them do that, before you cut off a penis of a child, let's wait until they're 18 years old. If you can't consent to a sexual relationship until you're 18 years old with an adult, why can you consent to an adult cutting off your sexual parts? It's stupid. It is stupid. He calls that a cultural war. Us trying to protect children from this crap, that's a culture war? Well, maybe it is, but it's one that we should be willing to fight and die on. And you suck, and you should not be president. Maybe I'm speaking too bluntly. Maybe I'm not speaking like a politician or a news anchor. But America's tired of politicians. America's tired of news anchors. That's why people like Trump. I'm going to tell it the way it is. I'm going to be unashamed to tell it the way it is. I'm not going to try to be rude or mean or hateful or evil, but people are obviously going to get offended by my comments. People get offended in everything. But I'm going to try my best to do it in good graces, but also fight for what is right. And this is wrong. I'm getting worked up about a candidate that's going to lose and get creamed the way he should. But Asa Hutchinson, you suck. You should not be president. When it comes to this, when it comes to who we're going to pick for president, of who we're going to pick to be a nominee for president, this is the Republicans' election to lose. We can win it. We just have to find the right candidate. I'm not saying it's impossible for Trump to win it. All I'm saying is I think it would be better if we went a different path. But this is a 2024 election update on all the candidates. Well, not all the candidates, but a lot of the candidates. And we will do more of these before now in 2024 because there's going to be a lot that comes up between now and 2024. I want to say God bless you all. Thank you all for listening to the podcast. Please like, subscribe, do whatever your podcast forum wants you to. Listen, pray for my podcast. And if you feel obligated or you feel called, you can give me a couple dollars to help the podcast grow. But you're not obligated at all. Thank you very much. God bless you. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you here soon.